A few updates on dust collection. I installed this wet rotor synchronous dishwasher motor for the blower on this mini dust collector, and measuring it, it only reads 22 watts while it's running, which is quite remarkable. Mind you, airflow is kind of blocked, so if I pull this off here, now we're up to 25 watts. What's impressive about this is it blows so much harder than this blower with a shaded pole motor, and that one is using 30 watts of power, so less power than this motor and more powerful. While I was at it, I was looking at the dust collector that I had on this one, and let me show you. I took it off because what I found is folding the filter in here, I just get way too much dust getting through, and I think it's just blow-by. So I think I just need to be able to tape these in there, and that's just about impossible if the filter's folded like that. So folding these filters is probably a bad idea. And in terms of taping the filter up, that's what I've done in this one here. But what I found is I taped these filters up, and that was the only attachment, and after a while the filters just kind of fell down because the tape just did not stick enough to hold the filters. So now I've got these things screwed on here, and there's a piece of wood behind here to also hold it up, so that the tape is not holding up the filters. The only thing that was held up by the tape was a bit of an end cap here, and here's the duct tape that held that on there, because after a while that just kind of fell down, which is to say tape, even duct tape, can only be relied to hold up its own weight, but not much more. So I'm making a piece of plywood that I'm going to attach in here with screws and then put tape on it to seal it. And I figure I'm going to build another mini dust collector to replace the folded filter one I had on the belt sander. And this is the best of the furnace blowers that somebody gave me. It's got a really large rotor. But what I've noticed is when this thing is closed, there's a huge gap between the rotor and the case, enough to put this piece of plywood in between. Oops. See, it still rotates freely with that plywood in there. My theory is that having this big gap in here allows air to come back this way, and essentially we get a lot of air circulating inside, consuming more power. So I'm going to measure the power with and without this disc in place and see if it makes a difference. So 145 watts open, and 116 watts closed. Got my plywood disc installed with 4 small screws. So open makes no difference, and closed $113 watts. So it makes a difference, but much smaller than I thought it would. More work on this dust collector. I got a 4-inch thick filter here. I like this one because it's got a lot of surface area, but I had to make some combs to stick in from the other side just to make sure these things don't fully collapse, because that would choke off the airflow. And then the lid fits on here, and to get a decent seal around the edge, I'm actually using some corrugated cardboard, because that's fairly compressible. So if I screw that lid tightly on there, that should adapt to any sort of unevenness that this box may have. And looking at the filter that had folded in the smaller dust collector, Because I had some doubts about whether this filter was good enough, I actually hot glued another filter to the back of it. And interestingly, looking at this, there's no sign that there is any amount of dust that made it between the filter layers. Which is to say, I'm pretty confident that this filter was actually effective at filtering out the dust. But the problem is the way it was in the box, I just didn't have enough seal around the edges, and so I got lots of blow-by and lots of dust making through the box. So I don't know how I could have sealed that better without just caulking and gluing it in, which I didn't want to do. Which is why the folded filter in the dust collector is a bad idea. But in this one, with the filter duct taped in there and then a rail screwed against there just to make sure the duct tape doesn't come off, I'm quite confident this one won't have this problem. And I've got it wedged in behind here now, and I hooked it up with a 4-inch piece of dryer hose and then switched to 3 inches just before the machine just to avoid a little bit of air resistance. And of course, it's wired into the machine. Makes a bit of noise, but while the machine is running, I can't hear it. And that's enough random updates for now. I still don't have enough dust collectors for every machine, but I think I'll finish up this video and finally upload it.